but I'm excited to talk about this because, I don't know, maybe you'll get me to cry on this episode. Who knows? That's how deep I go with baseball.
How can
Jen?
you not be romantic about baseball? I mean, so there's got to be some tears, I think, no?
Welcome to this.
Hey, bada, swing, bada. Hey, bada, swing, bada. Kennedy, swing, bada.
Episode of the Mazza's Musings podcast, where we are indeed talking baseball. And we're doing something a little bit different. You may have noticed in a few of our episodes this year, I am taking guests who have been on previous podcasts and welcoming them back to talk about something completely different. And why is this? Well, it's really just acknowledging that while people have something that they may be really passionate about, that's not the only thing that makes them them. So I've been bringing people back to talk about other things that interest them, other projects that they have, other passions. And this time I have Jen and Frank from Theme Park Thursdays with Dillo's Diz, and Tom and Michelle from the Hyperion Adventures podcast, who are all big baseball fans. And we are going to talk about baseball, with this being the opening week. Now, this episode, of course, is coming out on Friday, so pretty much everybody's in full swing now. But we recorded this on Wednesday, which was, of course, opening day for Major League Baseball. So it just seemed really appropriate to have this episode happen on this particular day. And we're not going to really be getting into our teams and our outlooks for the season. It's much more of a conversation about what makes baseball great, how it's connected with us, and how it's played a role in our lives, and really just getting a little romantic about baseball. Now, of course, before we get romantic, we have to get a little silly. And Meghan's here to help us out with that, with her Cuckoo Bananas Joke of the Week.
And now it's time for Meghan's
Cuckoo Bananas Joke.
Hi, Meghan.
Hi!
Do you have a joke for us today?
I've been knowing my joke for years.
You've been knowing your joke for years. Okay, well, let's hear it.
What is a rock's favorite kind of music?
I don't know. What is a rock's favorite kind of music?
Rock and roll!
Good one.
Roll down the mountain, little boulder, and then crash into a big boulder.
Okay, say goodnight.
Good night, 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 night. Good night. Cuckoo.
All right, and it's been a while, but hey, we don't have a Disney-specific episode this week, so we get to have a Mazza's Mickey Minute.
Donald, wake up! It's showtime! Don't forget the orchestra!
Ah, there you are. And just in time.
Mom says there's even more magical stuff now.
For those of you standing, please hold on to the handrails throughout our journey and stay clear of the doors.
Hang on to them hats and glasses, cause this here's the wildest ride in the wilderness. And here we go!
Okay, so I am recording this on Thursday, and well, it just happens to be fortuitous timing on my part because Disney just announced who is going to be honored as the next round of Disney Legends at this year's D23. Now, if you're not familiar with D23, it's got a much longer name, as Disney really likes to, make these super long titles for things, but essentially it's a ultimate fan expo you can listen to a past episode where my buddy Dan talked about his experiences at the last D23. And that will kind of give you a glimpse into exactly what happens that day. And whether you are a classic Disney fan, or you are a Star Wars fan, or you are a sports fan with ESPN, there's something for everybody really at the expo. But one of the crown jewels of that D23 is when they honor these Disney legends. So they release the names of those who are going to be honored this year. And I'm just going to run down a list, give you a quick snippet on each one of these, though most of them you should know. Though a few of them are a little bit more obscure unless you're heavy into the Disney history. So I'm just going to run through this list right now. And we've got the start with someone who's pretty familiar with Anne Hathaway, who got her start really. Her first major break was with The Princess Diaries. We've got Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, who obviously played Moana in the... Not Moana, played Maui in the animated classic Moana, and he is also going to be reprising that role in the live action Moana. He was also the star of the live action movie The Jungle Cruise. We also have Alan Tudyk, who's really a Disney staple, especially when it comes to animation. You've heard his voice probably more places than you even realized. He's done everything from Hey Hey on Moana to he was in Wreck-It Ralph. He was the Duke of Wesselton in Frozen. He was K2SO, so he has some live action credits to his name, although that he was playing obviously not a human character. But yeah, so if you look back at his history, it's just dotted with all of these credits, related to Disney animation. We also have Susan Egan, who was the original Belle for Beauty and the Beast on Broadway. And she was also the voice of Megara in the animated movie Hercules. We also have Jerry Bruckheimer, who, for his Disney credits, it's the Pirates of the Caribbean and some other Disney movies, but that's the one that really, in my mind, pops out when it comes to Jerry Bruckheimer. Eric Goldberg, which is one of the more lesser known ones, but the character that he helped create is one of the best known in the Disneyverse, so to speak. He is best known for his work on the genie in Aladdin. Obviously, someone who's very well known, Lin-Manuel Miranda, is going to be a Disney legend. Obviously, he was the writer and performer of Hamilton, which had a major breakthrough for bringing, really, in a lot of ways, stage into people's lives in a way that maybe they wouldn't have been able to experience it before, and certainly was a helpful thing for people to have during COVID on Disney Plus. But he was also involved with the music in Moana and Encanto, for example. The Jonas Brothers were, of course, Disney Channel, era icons. I don't, truthfully, I'll readily admit, I don't know a lot about the Jonas Brothers. But someone who I do know a lot about is Chris Berman, who was really one of the initial most influential figures for ESPN, and really was one of the figureheads in making what was really a fledgling concept into really a household name. We also have Kim Irvine, whose 50 years in Imagineering was key, in creating Disneyland. And of course, last but certainly not least, we have Bob Iger, who was the CEO and then former CEO and then CEO again, and now former CEO again. Obviously, a lot of growth for the company happened under his watch. You look at acquiring Marvel, acquiring Pixar, acquiring Lucasfilm, acquiring Fox. All of this was stuff that happened under Iger's watch and things that he propelled forward. So clearly, when you think about influential people who stand as legends, he seems like an extremely obvious one, especially when you consider that after Bob Chapek, they pulled him back to kind of help. I don't want to say save the company because I don't want it to be that dramatic, but it needed some guidance. And obviously, with the impact he had in the company earlier, that kind of steadying presence that he was able to provide was valuable as they went in. So obviously a great list of legends this year. I'm super jealous to whoever is able to attend this and be a part of it. It's going to be a hot ticket, that is for sure. And I can't wait to see some of the stuff that comes out of that. So D23 is in August this year, and I am really looking forward to it. I'm sure we're going to have a lot more come out, in between now and then about what's going to be happening with D23. But this is a great start to some of that news. So that is this week's Mazza's Mickey Minute. And of course, we're talking about Disney legends. And if you want to have a legendary Disney experience of your own, well, you should talk with We Do Travel Right. Because We Do Travel Right is offering that one-on-one service of an agent, but that agent has the power of a team behind them who are helping get you all the things that you need to make your trip the best trip possible. And they're doing that by helping you with your hotel reservations, your park tickets, with any experiences that you're looking to take advantage of, and really even just making sure that the trip that you are planning is right for your family and right for your budget. And the best thing about We Do Travel Right is their services are free. That's right. You're not paying anything extra to use We Do Travel Right. That's because whether it's Disney or Universal or all-inclusives or cruise lines, they all build the use of an agent into their pricing. So you're paying for the agent, whether you're using one or not. So doesn't it just make sense to use the agent? So if you are ready to get your next magical vacation started today, go to WeDoTravelRight.com/Mazza. That's WeDoTravelRight.com/MAZA.
Well, I can't do any more damage around this popsicle stand.
So long, partner.
See you real soon.
All right, we've talked about Disney. Now we're going to shift over to our Disney fans who are going to be talking about baseball. Yeah, we're doing a little switcheroo here. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And here we go. Alrighty, I am joined here with Frank and Jen from Theme Park Thursdays with Dillo's Diz, and Tom and Michelle from the Hyperion Adventures podcast. Now, I've been doing something a little bit different this year with the podcast and with guests. Specifically, I've been inviting guests who have been on previously to talk about one thing that they're super excited about or super passionate about, and then kind of turning things on its head, because people aren't just focused on one thing in life. They have other passions, they have other interests, and really I wanted to give people an opportunity to kind of share something else that they love. So in this episode, we are taking some of the Disney fanatics that I love to listen to, and we're going to talk about something else that we're all big fans of, and that is baseball. And of course, we're recording this on Wednesday, which is opening day for the Major League Baseball season, and the launch date is Friday for this, so that at that point, pretty much everybody will be in full swing at that point. So I thought that this was a perfect opportunity for us to bring that conversation forward. And but before we get into that, I would love to throw it to you guys to kind of introduce yourselves for those who aren't familiar, and to reintroduce yourselves to those who have listened to you before. So I'm just going to start at who's top of my screen, and that is Frank. So Frank, fire away.
We are Dillo's Diz. She is Jen.
Hello.
Oh, and I am Frank, and we do host a podcast every Thursday called Theme Park Thursday with Dillo's Diz, and we're New Yorkers, we're Long Islanders, we're Mets fans. It has obviously ebbed and flowed over the years, but I'm excited to talk about this because I don't know, maybe you'll get me to cry on this episode. Who knows? That's how deep I go with baseball.
How can
Jen?
you not be romantic about baseball? I mean, so there's got to be some tears, I think. No?
Yeah. Absolutely. You never know. I'm going to pass it to you.
Oh, to me?
Yeah, I'm not introducing both of us. You're here too.
Oh, okay. Hi. Yeah, so I feel like I'm excited also to talk about it because I do think a lot of our social media, especially in the last couple of years, has turned into Disney and theme parks and some baseball during baseball season. So it's nice to have the combination. And I think I've had a resurgence in the last few years thanks to my 11-year-old. So that's been nice. I'm wearing the 2024 hat because I think I will be referencing those Mets a lot on this episode. So, but I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me. Frank, you missed it. I was saying I'm the newbie here tonight, and I was very excited.
Oh, that's true. Long time, first time.
Yeah, exactly.
Tom, Michelle, how about you?
Well, hello again, and welcome to another episode of the Maz's Musings podcast. Sorry, since Frank was doing it, I figured we were doing our openings too. I'm Tom. This is my beautiful, wonderful, intelligent, baseball-loving wife, Michelle, a co-host. We do host the Hyperion Adventures podcast, and we love talking Disney. We are the Disney podcast of positivity, and it's baseball season, and let's all be very positive about what's the start of a new baseball season. We are big Padre fans. We used to live in San Diego for many, many years. Now we live in Florida. We're still Padre fans. We just may not be able to watch them as often because those games start very, very late for us now. Right, Michelle?
Yes, absolutely. And I actually have my history of baseball kind of goes beyond that because I also am from Massachusetts, so there's some DNA thing there. I feel like I'm more of the casual watcher of baseball, but it's had very important parts of my life, and like Frank brought up about crying as I was trying to think of some of the things about it, I got emotional myself of just some of my history with baseball.
All right. Well, I think, as is the case with everything, we all have our origin stories. We all have the things that really, how we got really into something. And I'd love to hear from each of you, how you first really got connected with baseball. I mean, for a lot of us, it's something that's always been around, but if there was any influence in your life, well, there's a person or an event that really kind of drew you in to baseball. Like for me personally, I think it was always kind of an ever-present thing. Even before we had cable in our house, there was a long time where we still had the rabbit ears, so we weren't able to pick up the broadcasts in Western Massachusetts from Boston. So it was always the radio. The game was always on the radio. My father and my mom would always have the game on whenever there was an opportunity. So it was almost kind of like during the summertime, the baseball games were like the soundtrack of the summer. So, that was really like the first thing. And then of course I played baseball when I was younger, at various, levels of success. Most of the time I was the guy who was like, getting the A on the group project while not doing very much. I will my one thing I will brag about, I was a very good bunter. I had the green light to bunt with 2 strikes, so that's my claim to fame. But it really was just one of those things where we would occasionally go to Fenway Park, and that was obviously a magical experience as a Red Sox fan from Western Massachusetts. It wasn't right around the corner; it was a project getting there, but it was always present. It was really like the soundtrack of the summer, like I said. So, I'd love to hear how other people had that initial connection and what really they think of when they think of that first experience with baseball.
Who would like to go first?
All right, I'll go first. My initial introduction to baseball was my older brother. He had 3 older sisters from him, and he got no interest in them. But I was a younger sibling, and I kind of was plopped there to have to listen to him explain the game and talk to me about it. We never had enough money to go to any game, but just having him share that with me, I recall of that very fondly. And the other thing he really shared was passion. He was passionate about baseball and the issue of hope, and definitely the curse. He taught me about the curse, and so it's like a faith, right? You just believe it from when you're a kid that is what it is. And the other thing I remember about him is he struggled in school, especially with math, but he could figure any baseball stat. And it was like, too bad the school didn't recognize that. But just having that connection with him at a very early age with this sport, it brings back a lot of very warm memories for me. And then, like Tom said, there's some resurgence later on in our life together we'll talk about.
For me, I grew up actually in the kind of the southern portion between LA and Anaheim, kind of in between there. So it was actually not that far a distance to go to Angels games regularly in Anaheim. So I grew up when I was young. My mother would take me to Angels games, and sometimes it was the late 70s, early 80s. To date myself, I would get to go alone because you could do that during that time. But I mean, it was like a cheap ticket. It was like $2. You get a great seat. It was like nothing. And you go and you have an enjoyable afternoon or evening at the ballpark. Got to see, like, my favorite player growing up was Nolan Ryan. Got to see him pitch multiple times, and it was incredible. Still rooted for him even when he went to Houston, Texas, because he was so phenomenal. Watching the late 70s and early 80s Angels, Rod Carew once he got there, Fred Lynn once he came over from the Red Sox, Chris, him over there, Brian Downing, Doug DeSensei, just so many of these great Angels. It seems like I was always rooting for a team that never would be good, but we never quite get there. So we've transitioned to me moving to San Diego, which I never thought I would transition from an Angels fan to a Padres fan when we moved there, but right about the same time I moved there is when the 84 Padres really went crazy, beat the Cubs, came back from behind 2-0 to beat the Cubs in the NLCS, go to the World Series. I went to the only World Series game still to this day that the Padres have ever won. And then just, I grew up. Another great thing, I would go with friends all the time. We would go regularly, like multiple times a week, going watching Padres, watching the Tony Gwynn, Trevor Hoffman. I mean, the list goes on. And I've never stopped being a Padre fan since then.
Thanks.
Jen, I think you should go first because I want to hear your angle, and then since we're 7.5 years apart.
Yeah. So I think, like most things on our podcast and Disney, we can go back to Papa Dillo. We can probably go back to Papa Dillo here too. I agree, Chris, kind of similarly, where baseball was just sort of always there in my mind. I also had this older brother who played baseball and had baseball cards everywhere. And so I was pretty well versed without like it was just like an osmosis. I didn't know how much I was picking up on, but I was picking up on things. But we went to games at Shea Stadium growing up. Not, I feel like we were probably more often at hockey games than baseball games, but still some baseball games here and there. So I think it's just always kind of been a part of us. I played softball from 2nd grade to 8th grade, so that's something, I guess. Frank was my coach for a little bit, one of my coaches.
Yeah, one.
We should really do a deep dive on that someday.
Before I moved to Florida,
Yeah.
the summer before
Yes.
I moved to Florida. Yeah.
But so, and also movies. I think there are so many movies that we look back to. Of course, for me, early 90s is like Sandlot. So, I can go to that one as being a big one. But I think it was just sort of all around me in these different ways that I grew into it. And if anyone asked me, I was a Mets fan, and I went to Mets games after the day after a prom or something, or with friends here and there. And so then over time, I probably started paying a little less attention here and there over the years. But again, I think because my son got into it, then there's been this resurgence in the last few years where I know the players and I know who's what and I know who's good and I know who I'm cheering for and all the things. And he, Michelle, much like your brother, he knows every stat possible. He actually gave me a list of notes, which is in the other room. So if I need to refer to it, I may have to run and get that. But he gave me some information in case I was quizzed at any point on this podcast.
No, that's his name. Ooh,
Yeah.
the 11-year-old knows Michelle very well with the quizzes. So
That's true. That's true. So, I may have been quizzed. And so he was getting me ready. I was like, do you want to put what your prediction for the lineup will be tomorrow? He was all set. He'd get a whole thing. Who was acquired from what to, I was like, who were they acquired from? Okay. Because now for us as Mets fans this year, there's a lot of new players and we dealt with a lot of heartbreak over the offseason. So we're Dilloing our expectations for this season, I think. But I think that's my angle.
Well, picture it, 1981. Well, three things converged for me in 1981. And this might be like foggy memories or stuff. I believe I went to my first Mets game against the Phillies at Shea Stadium. I think I got my first pack of baseball cards, 1981 Topps, and in that pack of baseball cards became my first favorite player, which was Yankees catcher Rick Cerrone, because he looked like someone who should be related to us. He had the Italian, the mustache, the whole thing, and
Stop describing Papa Dillo. God, this is about baseball.
A little bit, yeah. So I became almost like a Yankees fan first, and the Yankees went to the World Series that year against the Dodgers and lost. But those three things were happening at once. I went to a game, I liked this Yankees player, and I got baseball cards, and it was off and running. And I played Little League starting, that's maybe even right that same year, first grade maybe, but I played all the way through the fall semester of my freshman year of college. And when it was kind of like a 3-year journey there that I kind of knew it was winding down. And within the last 12 months before that, theater was creeping into my life. So that fall semester, I couldn't even tell you how much I really played during that fall semester because I had so much anxiety about disconnecting myself from it. And so that's basically the journey with I played all the time. I played Little League, I played on tournament teams, I played on state winning baseball teams. I traveled, I did all the things as a teenager, and varsity baseball in high school and the whole thing. I was a third baseman, and and so then after that, like you become angry with something that took up the majority of your life for so long. So then I struggled for a while, and I think that really continued for about 20 years, where I just ebbed and flowed with the game. I think the strike put me off entirely in '94. I came back when Ripken broke Gehrig's streak. I was living in Florida when the Yankees had their dynasty, so that was kind of fun. I moved back to New York and went to Game 1 of the Subway Series, and that really was like, okay, now I'm back. I'm back in baseball again. But even after that, I still ebbed and flowed with it. And when I turned 40, I went to Mets fantasy camp for a week, which I feel, and over that time, we went to like spring training game. Papa Dillo and I went to spring training games all the time, besides Major League Baseball games. But we still are spring training enthusiasts. And but I went to fantasy camp when I was 40, and that really was like a closure thing for me. And so now, I feel like since that time, I've been more engaged again. Even that year of fantasy camp, the Mets went to the World Series in 2015 against Kansas City and lost. There's a pattern here. They lost the Subway Series. They lost the... and I feel like now the last 10 years, I've been more invested in the team than... And probably the last 30 years. So, and it's been plentiful. And that 2024 team really sucked me in the great way. Because, at the end of the day, it was a very easy transition for me from baseball to theater. And I always say this, and I know, Chris, you're going to touch on this a lot. And it's the intimacy of the game. It's the connection of the players involved to whoever's watching, whether it's on TV or in person. There's something greater there. It goes really fast, and then it really slows down, and both are equally great in my opinion. So when I started in theater and I was like really behind everybody, I just started to understand things in a baseball perspective, and really was able to take my time with things and feel how things shifted and how the audience should feel in certain moments, because I understood that from playing baseball and watching baseball. Certainly watching baseball. You had not just the two New York teams, but you had the Cubs on one cable station, you had the Braves on another cable station. So I was absorbed with it for 20 years. And so, but I always point to, well, how did you go from theater to baseball and make it work? And I was like, well, the baseball made theater work for me. And so here I am now with a podcast, still talking about experiences because of my experience with baseball.
Yeah, it's funny that the dramaticism that there is in baseball, everybody has really been on the pace of games and things like that. And to me, it's just like there's so much that happens in those moments in between, and especially when you're there and you're in the stadium and at a game, there's so many little intricacies and things that are building the tension or building the story of the game that are happening in between pitches, that I think, really speaks to what you're talking about, Frank, and that that there is a drama element to it that really, can meld both of those worlds together. I also think that another interesting point is, while you can be attached to a team, we've heard from a few of you, you can get attached to individual players too, and kind of feel like you have almost a relationship. There's an accessibility to players on a different kind of level, I think. I was a Red Sox fan. Of course, I was a Red Sox fan, growing up. The 90s were some very lean years there for, but beyond that, there were players who were 30,000, 3,000 miles away, I loved Tony Gwynn, I never saw Tony Gwynn play, but he was one of those guys who was just like, this is the guy who plays the game the right way. I loved a guy who never struck out. And, I also, loved like Greg Maddux and Tom Glavine. These were guys that I had no connection to from a team perspective, but I was just fascinated with the way that they approached and played the game. And I think that that's something that you don't necessarily see elsewhere, and I had a friend who I actually worked with in my real life. I'm a newspaper editor. I started out as a sports writer, and my sports editor, born and raised in central Massachusetts, thickest accent you would ever, I mean, the most stereotypical thick, central Massachusetts accent you could, I know, Michelle, you probably can picture it in your, in your mind. And he was a Yankees fan. And I was just like, how are you possibly a Yankees fan? Like, people out my way, sure, we're close enough to the New York border and such, but, and he was just like, I saw Mattingly play, and I loved Mattingly. And from that time on, I was a Yankees fan because that's who he played for, so it's interesting how you can have these connections to players, individual players who aren't necessarily on the team that you root for, and you can almost feel a vested interest in them as well.
I feel that's one of the ways baseball has done itself really well, especially, I mean, the All-Star game is what it is nowadays. It's not what it was back 70s, 80s when a lot of us were watching baseball. But that was where you could really see those players, especially them, because you didn't have the ESPN as much. You didn't have where these games were on all the time. So you got these stars out there and you could see them actually perform. It made the All-Star game be so big, and unfortunately it's not that anymore, but it's kind of just the sign of the times of the fact that you can take a stop and watch, and hey, Shohei Ohtani's coming to bat. I got to watch him because you never know what he's going to do. It could have been a Tony Gwynn. It could have been just name any of them. We could go for some of your Mets. Some that maybe aren't with us anymore. We're still going to be pausing for maybe a Pete.
Don't do it.
But it's one of those great things about baseball because it's such a team sport, but it's also such an individual sport that you can focus and enjoy the play of some of these great, amazing all-stars and non-all-stars, just players you fall in love with that may be mediocre players at best, but there's just something about them that just draws you in, and it's great.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of how my son got hooked. I mean, we've been taking them to games since they were little, but we're at this game, and what is time? Because I cannot remember how many years ago now. And another boy sitting near us gave him a Pete Alonso baseball card, like from his, he must have had one or whatever, but like gave him the extra one. That was it. Now we're big Pete fans, and now we're all in. And like that is what, like that one card is what it took us down the rabbit hole. And so last summer we met Pete. I mean, and Pete made a video at one point for him. I mean, like all of these things, but it all centered around like that one very nice act of kindness from this other kid at the game, and it set him off. And so he got super attached to all things Pete, all things Mets, all things a lot of the players who aren't there anymore. It's fine, and brought us along with it. So now I have emotions about it too. So it's all
nice.
Yeah, I think I'm wearing my 86 Mets replica jersey because it's been 40 years. That's fine. But and
at least you have 40 years. At least you have 40 years.
Fair enough, Padres fans. But that 86 Mets team, because it's not like I ever disliked one or the other. I've always liked both the Yankees and the Mets, but I really started leaning towards the Mets fandom when Lenny Dykstra started playing in '85, and I just really liked the way he played baseball. We could talk about him as a person, but as a baseball player, I really just loved how he was always dirty and he grinded and he just was hard nosed and in Moneyball, I think in the book Moneyball, they talk about him as he just didn't understand the concept of failure, which I wish I read that passage while I was playing baseball because maybe it would have put a little more in perspective for me. I can emulate the way he plays, but mentally we were different people entirely. So that was always, but that whole 86 Mets team, they were, I mean, in the best way, they were all characters. Keith Hernandez and Doc Gooden and Darryl Strawberry and Dykstra and Backman, and they just had characters. And so, and that's also what you see too, is if I'm just going to keep making theater connections all the time, an ensemble in a cast, TV ensemble, on stage ensemble, you just saw that in that chemistry of that 86 team. You saw that in the chemistry of the 2024 team. And so I'm always drawn to that too. I'm drawn to the how they all connected. It's why the Yankees dynasty. It wasn't just like, oh, the Yankees are winning. No, it was Joe Torre kind of just being the right manager for a young Derek Jeter, a young Bernie Williams, a young Mariano Rivera, a young Jorge Posada. Pettit is just the right things at the and when you really see that magic happen in front of you and come out in this, you try to hit a round ball with a round bat, it makes it extraordinary. And all of that aside, as you guys were talking, I was like, if someone asked me what's the best thing I've ever seen in person watching baseball, and it's watching Ichiro take batting practice during spring training. I've never seen anything else like it in my life. Just the level of Ichiro and what he could, not a game, Ichiro taking batting practice in March. It's like, so just players have that there's just something extra when it comes to that. And it's really cool.
Well, and to your point of like how you did like the Yankees and kind of went more Mets, or I also kind of go back to Papa Dillo with that, because I think of him a lot with sports in general, where we were Islander fans, we were Met fans, but he pays attention to everybody and he knows what all the teams are doing and he will watch other games. It doesn't have to be just his team playing, Sunday night football, it's whoever. And so he always kind of like, we didn't grow up like hating anyone. I mean, maybe the Rangers a little bit.
I mean, that's probably as close as it gets is the Rangers.
Exactly. But like, we never really like hated other teams. We kind of had we knew who our teams were, but he has like a genuine love for the game and all the games. And so I feel like, and I kind of feel like the 11-year-old is the same way with that. And where he knows what all the teams are doing. He would never say he's a Yankees fan, but he knows what all the teams are doing.
Yeah, and like you were mentioning, Frank, about how you can have this ensemble of characters. I was thinking about that too before coming on, and really the team after the Red Sox team following the marathon bombing, a team that really, when you looked at the individual parts, had no business, winning a championship. That was one of those instances that you're referring to, where it was just the right group of personalities, as much as anything, as much as their physical talents. It was the right personalities in the right places and the right person, leading that group. So it is, you're absolutely right bringing it back to theater, because they are, in a sense, characters. They're all playing a role, and just exactly how well they play that role, not only on the field, but in the clubhouse and with the fans, it all adds up to, what the team ends up being more often than not.
Yeah. I mean, and that's, I think, how we were feeling most recently with 2024. I mean, I think we walked away from that season like, there's something magical. There's something just magical about that team. And just the vibe it had, like going to games and how the team was interacting with each other. And then you have Iglesias. I don't know if Tom and Michelle know anything about him, that, he's out there doing concerts and writing songs and making music. And like, just this, you saw it like you were watching a movie, I feel like, because you also had Winky on the team, and he was like he's the guy in every sports movie who's a little kooky and he's a little crazy, and like that's who we had, all the
archetypes,
the characters, yes, represented there. But it just felt like, oh, this just feels different this season.
Yeah, I mean, we had those, even though we didn't get the 40 years, and we've never, as Padre fans, been able to take home that big trophy. There have been great moments and great teams with the Padres. And, I mentioned the 84 already. 1998 was an incredible Padres team. And it started right off from early on in the season. There was a point they were in Arizona behind, 3 men on. Steve Finley walks to the bat and hits a grand slam. And it was like the first week of the season, but you just feel something different. And that team just turned it on. And there were just so many working parts to that team. And it's the team, even though they ran into the juggernaut of the Yankees that year. And I would still like to go back to a pitch in game 1 of the World Series that year. Mark Langston threw a 2-2 fastball that was a strike that was called a ball. Tino Martinez is the next pitch for a grand slam. I still think the Yankees would have won that series, but I would have liked to see how that would have turned out if that pitch had been called a strike. But not that I'm bitter. But that team what allowed the Padres, because there's questions on whether there's always been question whether the Padres would stay in San Diego. That team allowed them to build Petco Park because they voted to build Petco Park immediately after that season. And now many people will say it's the best ballpark in baseball. It's definitely up there for sure. No matter what team the Padres field, they're always in a great home. They're always in San Diego. And they're in probably, again, they're still not winning championships, but they're probably the best run of the entire time period that this franchise has existed in Major League Baseball right now, regularly making the playoffs.
I kind of wanted to go back to something. Oh, go ahead, Chris.
No, go ahead, Michelle. Go ahead.
When Frank was talking about that moment, seeing, something with baseball, and that reminded me of one that I felt like I told you, we never could afford to go to baseball games, but once I got married, got to go. But anyways, seeing, I had, obviously watched the Padres on TV, but being in the stadium when Trevor Hoffman came out to Hell's Bells, it was electric, and very emotional. I'm still emotional, even though I saw it more than once. But and just feeling the crowd, feeling everybody in a unison together there for the same thing, it's amazing.
Yeah. Major League aside, it was the first time a closer came out to such fanfare, and now they all do it, right?
They all do it.
But nothing will ever top in our hearts Hell's Bells. That's
right,
for sure,
yeah.
Now, this segues perfectly. We're talking about an atmosphere, being at a game. And I think that that's one of the great things about baseball is it's such a unique atmosphere. And just being at a game, whether you have a vested interest in the teams or not, or really at any level, around here, we're now blessed. I have a AAA team about 45 minutes to my east, the Red Sox AAA team, but also about 30 minutes south in Hartford, Connecticut, we have a AA team, which is the affiliate of the Colorado Rockies, which I have zero interest in, but I love going to those games. There's just, there's such a great atmosphere that just surrounds the game of baseball, really, regardless of the level. And I'm just curious, if there are any, we've talked about a few of them already, but, some moments or some impressions that you've had being at the ballpark that really made you feel like this is what makes this game special.
Oh boy! Just to pull the thread. I'm going to talk for 20 minutes. No, I'm glad. Well, I'll just say first that I'm glad you mentioned the minor league portion of it because I similarly to spring training, I also enjoy. We in Orlando, we used to go to. I think they were a Rays affiliate. They were the Orlando Rays, so they had to be a Rays affiliate. And Manny Trio who played second base for the Phillies, amongst other teams, for a while. He coached first base, and I used to like cheer on Manny Trio coaching first base with a couple of beers. And but again, it's that you get to be a little extra. A little more close in those situations when I work up at the Renaissance Festival in the summer, we used to go to a lot of Syracuse games. Now the Syracuse is a Mets affiliate, and I haven't been there since they've been a Mets affiliate. But we would go to Syracuse sometimes. We go to Rochester sometimes. I got to throw a first pitch at a baseball game for the Rochester Red Wings. I mean, I was dressed as a Renaissance Festival character whose name was Lenny. I wonder where that came from. So it all comes together in the end there. But again, so having those experiences, but the 2024 team aside, it was again one of those things where I posted on Facebook in May, maybe. I was like, how can I line up seeing Pete Alonso break the Mets home run record? How can I figure that out? And on Father's Day, randomly, my wife got the 11-year-old, Papa Dillo, myself, Mr. Sinai Dillo, tickets to Billy Joel giveaway night at Citi Field for August. And okay, great, awesome. What did we get? A Billy Joel jersey on the back of the Mets? Had not even thinking that would be the game that lined up to Pete Alonso breaking a record, and it was outside Citi Field. I turned to the 11-year-old. I'm like, it's happening tonight. He's like, no, it's not happening tonight. I'm like, it's happening tonight. It keeps delaying. I mean, granted, the Mets were in a 3-month spiral, but it was like, no, this is it. And I tell you what, I think he flew out in the first inning, and it was kind of like, oh, but he knew when he walked up before he hit that home run. And as soon as it came off the bat, I was like, I can't believe that I am here for this. It was just one of those things. Again, the 11-year-old's history with Pete Alonso, and just pointing to the way people play the game. There's a joy behind him. I will never understand in a million years what happened behind the scenes. There'll be a great book someday, but it was one of those moments. I'm like, this is it. He's here forever. And then 4 months later, he was not.
So much. That game also makes me emotional just from the video of it, and for many reasons. I can't believe I wasn't there. I can't believe.
If you will hear me scream in a way most people don't hear me. Like I hear the way Jen screams on Tron.
I was going to say.
I would say it's similar to how I was screaming in that moment.
Yeah, I feel like I have moments that I know I have felt like, ooh, this is big and this is so exciting. I'm up on my feet and I'm cheering and all, and like I can't like really pinpoint something in my head. But then I go to, again, 2024 season, and the I think it was Pride Night. And the 9 of us were there, which is Mama, Papa Dillo, and both of our families. And so we were all there, and that day, Iglesias had released Oh My God, or OMG. And so that morning, the 11-year-old had been playing it like the whole day. And that night after the game, there was a fireworks show, but he came out on the field and he sang it. And like the whole team came out, we're all up on our feet and dancing. And like, again, it's that scene of a movie where, all the characters are coming out and they're singing together and they're dancing together and they're on their field and the crowd is going crazy. And although it's not baseball, again, it's like taking you into this other side of them that you're like, yeah, this is a good vibe. I like this. And like that sticks out now too.
I have so many moments.
Yeah.
I was shuffling through them in my head because I've been blessed to see so many amazing things. You may not know this, but I was also part of the Padres broadcast team for a while. I was part of the flagship station for the Padres for many years. That's actually how I met Michelle. In a roundabout way. I'm sure she'll get into that in a little bit here. But, I've been blessed to be on the field and sit and talk with Bruce Bochy. And when he was the manager of the Padres, actually, he was even before he was the manager of the Padres. He was just one of the coaches, and just, you couldn't meet a nicer guy. I mean, like Pete Alonso leaving the Mets, man, Bruce Bochy leaving the Padres hurt so badly, just going up to a rival and winning 3 World Series with them and then winning another one with the Texas Rangers. But I'd still root for him because he's just an incredible guy. But like I was there, I was blessed to be at Tony Gwynn's final game, which also was the game that Ricky Henderson got his 3,000th hit in the same game. It was nuts, crazy, just amazing. I told you I was at the one Padres game that they won, one World Series game they won. It's also at the final World Series game they played in. It was a loss, but I was there. I mean, some of the, as much as I love Petco Park, Qualcomm Stadium, especially in '98, when that place would get rocking, like it was unmatched. Hell's Bells would hit, and that place was just electric. It was incredible. I just, there's so many things, but I'm just blessed to be a fan and have had that opportunity for sure.
Yeah, definitely. There are same kind of thing. A lot of things that were important to me related to games, are just monumental in the fact, like when we went to the very first game in Petco Park. And when I was the day before I moved out of San Diego, Tom's mother took me to a Padres game, and it because she and I would go routinely, and it just was very, fitting to kind of end my time there going to the game. But I think my biggest thing is kind of being at a game adjacent, and that is, it is how Tom and I really met, in that my sister and I were playing an online game of blackjack, and Tom was at the radio station, but he was also in this game room, and anyways, kind of like that's history after that. But that is how we actually first met virtually and started talking, and things just progressed from there.
Yeah. So I was the studio coordinator for the Padres game. And when you're doing pregame, you got a lot to do. When you're doing postgame, you got a lot to do. When the game is actually going on, you're in the studio. The game, most of everything is down at the ballpark. So you run about 2 minutes with the commercials, and then you sit for however long the half inning takes, or there's a pitching change or whatever. And so I would go on, and I would okay, well, I'm going to play a little online blackjack back in the early days.
No real money.
Yeah, just fun. And we started vibing, and we went from there. Yeah.
I love it.
The magic of baseball. And really, how can you not be romantic about baseball when you have stories like that?
Exactly.
Now, as Jen was saying, there are a lot of things in my mind too that aren't like individual moments or things that I can't like necessarily place, because but one, and I can't remember the game, and I can't remember the exact situation or anything, but there was a game that I took my mother to. And I recall, this was kind of a big deal because I could actually afford Red Sox tickets and bring my mother to a game. And we were in the bleachers, which when I was a kid, the bleachers at Fenway Park were not a place that you were ever going to go. It's a different world now, but we were about, 2 rows from the back in the bleachers, the cheapest seats that I could possibly get. But I took my mother to this game, and the guy next to her, kind of fancied her. But, and so there was this weird kind of conversation that was going on throughout the game. And 9th inning of the game, David Ortiz steps to the plate with a chance to win the game. And he ends up hitting the game-winning home run. And you would have thought that my mother and this guy had known each other forever with the way that they were celebrating together after this. My mother was not celebrating with me. She was, and it's funny because, never saw this guy again. No idea what his name was, anything like that. But it's one of those things that it's just like, when you're in the ballpark, you're with your people, and when a moment happens, you're just going with it. So, that's one that's always kind of stuck out to me, just because there's just a slight amount of oddity to it, that makes it one of those recall moments for me. And I got to tell you, Tom, you were talking about how great the ballpark is there in San Diego. I have been to some absolute pits of ballparks, the ones that I've actually gone to outside of Fenway Park, the old Veterans Stadium, was one of them. An absolute pit. Olympic Park in Montreal, which was awful. And we saw a game on a trip to the West Coast in Oakland.
Oh.
Also a pit. But as bad as those places were, I have memories from all of them. They may not be like specific, but I guess this says a little bit about Oakland baseball, but even back the early 2000s, we were able to walk up day of and get tickets like four rows behind the dugout and see Barry Zito, pitch. It was there's always these things that there are that it becomes part of the story of your baseball life, I suppose. And I don't know about
the
it.
Game, no matter what.
Yeah, that's true.
Ballpark you're watching. Yes, maybe the concessions aren't the best. Maybe the seats aren't the best. Maybe the views aren't the best. But what's the play on the field is still the play on the field, and it's still excellent and wonderful, and brings back all the memories for sure.
Well, when you're talking about views, I mean, Fenway Park is the king of obstructed views. So. But one thing that I have always been, not so much now, honestly, it's kind of gotten out of me a little bit now that the Red Sox have actually won some championships, but was always very superstitious. And I guess it's a little bit silly that I was so superstitious when they were losing. And now it's not something that I've carried forward, as they've become more successful. But, as an example, the breaking of the curse, I was living with my mother. I was in college at the time. I was living with my mother, but I would drive 40 minutes to pick up my friend at his house and drive 40 minutes back so that he could sit in one spot on this like sectional couch that we had. And I would sit in the other spot, and my mother had her spot, and we'd all watch the games together. And that's what we had to do, that entire series. And there was one time we ordered a pizza, and after it was between innings, I get up and my mother says, "Hey, throw out the pizza box." I was like, yeah, I'll take care of it. She knew I wasn't going to take care of it. So she took the pizza box and put it in my seat. So I come back and I look at my seat and see the pizza box there. And I looked at her as if she had just shot my dog. I was so upset that this was in my seat. And I warned her that I was going to hold her personally responsible if they did not win. Fortunately for her, they did win. So now it's a fun story instead of something that I do to bring up the Catholic guilt in her. So that's one of my stories. Has anybody delved into that? Some would call it ridiculousness. Some would call it ritual. Some would call it necessity.
I'm kind of picturing Silver Linings Playbook during your story. And he has the one guy holding the remote in a certain hand, and everything has to be very specific, but I don't think I have any.
No, am I the lone weirdo here?
I am fraught with them for all my life.
Michelle has all the superstition for us.
I do. I mean, again,
you don't need any from me because she's got plenty of it.
Between the Catholic in me and the Bostonian part, yeah. No, with anything, any game or baseball or other games, yeah. If if there's a run and it's what I'm wearing, I gotta wear that. If it's during a particular game and let's say the team is doing poorly, and then I leave to go to the bathroom or get something to eat, and while I was gone they're doing well, all right, I gotta turn it off. I gotta let them win. It's my fault they were losing because I was watching.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if I'm a superstitious fan. I was a superstitious player for sure, which started with Chef Boyardee ravioli before every Little League game when I was young. Oh yeah, just watch it come right out of the can. And then I think I went through there was a season where I was just the dark green Tic Tacs for a while in my mouth, and then there was and then a lot of it revolves around food mostly and what I would eat or snack on beforehand, and then that carried over into performance stuff too. Of I'll listen to a certain selection of music before, or I'll have a specific song I have to sing to myself beforehand to get into a character or something like that. I played an
Let's hear a few notes of that right now.
No, you know, Tom, that when I played an evil sheriff at the Renaissance Festival, I would sing Hellfire from Hunchback of Notre Dame. And nobody wants to hear that.
That's all I want. That's all I want.
You know I am a righteous man.
Happening.
Very good.
I would say that some might say us Dilloing things. Is that not a superstition? I mean, I feel like that might be the ultimate.
We don't want to ruin it for ourselves.
Pre-ruin it for ourselves.
Yeah. It's gonna be fine-ish. I don't know. Yeah.
All right. Well, we've talked a lot about the drama of the game, and I guess a good place to kind of wrap it up is does anybody have their favorite or go-to baseball movie? What is it for you that if somebody's saying, "Hey, somebody who's a baseball fan but somehow has never watched a baseball movie before, what's the one that you're saying you need to watch this?"
Someone who's never watched one before? Oh my God. How am I supposed to pick one? Oh my God.
Gosh, I mean, I will make a blasphemous statement and here that I've never said publicly before, but I probably would not put Bull Durham in my top 10 of baseball movies. And I think it's a great movie, but it's not. I don't know. I think there's so many other great baseball movies I would tell people to watch beforehand, and depending on the age of the person that I would be showing the movie to. I mean, I think Major League is tops. I mean. Have I watched Field of Dreams more than Major League? I don't know. It's close, but I think Major League, again, maybe 3 years removed. It came out in '89. 3 years removed from the characters that were the '86 Mets again. It just seemed like this is it. This is exactly what it is. This is my high school baseball team. This is it just hit all those things. But I mean, I love most baseball movies. I love The Bad News Bears. I love Sandlot. I love For the Love of the Game with Costner. But Major League and Field of Dreams is right up there. I love Moneyball. Moneyball is my go-to movie on when I fly.
So that's what we watch when we fly down to Disney.
Yeah, Moneyball was going to be mine, and Bad News Bears. But all the ones that you've mentioned are great. But yeah. I had to recommend.
I love Field of Dreams. I don't, as much as baseball is in it, I don't feel it's a baseball movie, but the one scene where James Earl Jones speaks about baseball is all you need to know about baseball right there. That is all you need to know. But The Natural, I'll throw The Natural in there too. That's really good one too.
Yeah. I just wrote down the first three that came to mind, even though you only asked for one. I did Field of Dreams, Moneyball, and Sandlot. Those are and I'll cry at all of them. I'll cry at any baseball movie probably, because again, that's the Papa Dillo in us.
Jen, how many times did you watch Rookie of the Year when you were?
Oh man, yeah, that was a lot. The 11-year-old loves Rookie of the Year. Oh, yeah. He's watched that a few times now too.
No love for Angels in the Outfield.
I love Angels in the Outfield. Yeah. I don't know that there's been a baseball movie that I haven't liked. I mean, I love them all. And I feel like a lot of them speak to either the nostalgia or, there's always something that grabs you. And in Field of Dreams, obviously the ending, we're not going to talk about it and I'll cry right now, but the James Earl Jones speech, or Moneyball, everyone's crying at how can you not be romantic, and Sandlot, even like that whole 4th of July scene where they're all grabbing food and then going to play on the field and it's like a summer night and it's like, oh, it's so good. So I feel like, much like the game itself, the movies about baseball just hold that special feeling, and that those, similar to the Disney vibes, those baseball vibes, and they do it pretty well. I mean, well, pretty much across the board.
Yeah, in a lot of these movies that we're talking about too, I mean, yes, baseball, in some cases, baseball is an element of the movie, but it's also tying in other aspects of life, and seeing them at different points in life can make it mean something different to you. Tom, you brought up Field of Dreams when I was not Field of Dreams, Angels in the Outfield. Angels in the Outfield when I was a kid was a fun movie when I was a kid. When now I'm an adult who has been a foster parent, and it's got a whole different set of feels to it. Not to mention, you look, when I was that age, I didn't appreciate what a star-studded cast that would turn out to be. But Field of Dreams as well. Like there are these. While baseball is the vehicle for it, it's such an effective vehicle to move forward these other plot points and these other stories, and I think that's partially because of how baseball just fits in so naturally with our lives so often. So I think for me, truthfully, it depends on the day, and it depends on what my mood is. I will say that there are a couple. Now we heard about The Natural, and we heard about Moneyball. Both great movies. And I hate to be this guy, but I'm just like, I like the book better. So, but yeah, like right now, I would probably, have to say Field of Dreams. It's just one of those movies that, truthfully, on top of everything else, is one of those movies that was one of the first sports movies that I watched with my dad, so it's got that personal connection too. So, but I don't think that there's really a wrong answer here. I mean, I think that you could name any of I don't know, 24 baseball movies, and I would be like, oh yeah, that was a great one. One that came up in a conversation recently was Little Big League, which was around the same time as Rookie of the Year, but taking a different, and again, that's one of those things I kind of looked back and I was just like, oh, that was a fun movie too. So it can run the gamut from silly fun to adult comedy to drama, and it really works in basically any kind of genre that you put the sport in.
Yeah.
100%.
Now, has there ever been a true baseball musical?
Damn Yankees.
Yeah.
Damn Yankees. Yep, there you go. All right.
Way to go, Tom. Way to show up the New Yorkers.
I'm a theater fan.
All right. Well, hey, I want to thank you guys for taking the time. Good luck to all of your teams. And now I'd like to give you an opportunity to let people know where they can find you, any upcoming projects or things you have that you're working on, or anything else you'd like to plug at this time. And again, I'm just going to start at the top with Frank, because that just seems to make the most sense on my screen.
Yeah, we're a theme park. It's Wednesday night here, but I know this is dropping on a Friday. So in the middle of that is Theme Park Thursday. Thursday with Dillo's Diz. It's Jen and I. We're the Dillos, and we drop a new podcast every Thursday on your favorite podcatchers, and have been regularly putting the video up on YouTube for the first time. Regularly, I should say. Yeah, I said that already. During 2026, so make sure to check that out. You can sub, you can follow in all the places, on the Instas and the X's and the Facebooks and all of that. And I'll just say that also, and I think I said this the last time I was with you, Chris, was that I've been working on a project called Field of Understudies, which is about a theater department on a college campus that forms a baseball team to take on all the fraternities. It's taking baby steps. So we did a table read of the first episode in January. So trying to figure out the next steps there. But you can go to fieldofunderstudies.com and just see what that's all about. And there's an Insta page and a TikTok related to that as well. Thanks.
You didn't say Dillo's with an S and Diz with a Z.
I did say it years later. I think they got. People know. I don't know.
You don't know. You never know.
As for us, we are the Hyperion Adventures podcast, the Disney podcast of positivity. You can find us pretty much everywhere you get podcasts. Best place to find us on our own website, HyperionAdventuresPodcast.com. On social media, we're on hashtag always Twitter and Blue Sky at Hyperion Podcast, Facebook, Instagram, and Threads at Hyperion Adventures Podcast. We have a great Facebook group. If you want to join us there, we're at Hyperion Adventures Podcast. We're on YouTube. Most of our episodes also come out on YouTube as well. Please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. By the way, since this is coming out right before this week's episode, we've already recorded this week's, and we're very excited because we have a great guest joining us. We're speaking with Ken Bruce, who is a two-time Emmy-winning animation director and storyboard artist. He's worked on Up. He's worked on Toy Story 3. He's worked on
Shrek.
The Simpsons, Shrek. He's also worked on Family Guy.
He's on Family Guy now.
But what we're really talked to about is he wrote this great book that is a deep dive into Walt Disney's Enchanted Tiki Room called When the Birds Sang Words. Fantastic book. We talk all about it. There's so much involved in coming up with the Enchanted Tiki Room that I really think you're going to love it. And he's a funny, interesting guy too. And it's really, couldn't be happier about that interview. So yeah. I don't usually like to plug upcoming interviews when we just do these tags at the end, but I think most people will be really excited about this one.
That's awesome.
Sounds great. Hey, guys, thanks again for joining me. I'm looking forward to listening to what you guys have coming up, and I'm looking forward, of course, to baseball season. Unfortunately, I cut the cord, and now I'm streaming, so it's back to the radio and listening for me primarily, unless I get a national game. But, as always, baseball, once again, is going to be a part of the soundtrack of the summer, so Thanks again for joining me, and good luck to you and all of your teams.
We'll need it.
Well, thanks for joining me on this episode, and thank you to Tom and Michelle and Frank and Jen for coming on and just sharing some of the love that they have for this game, the shared love that we all have for it. And I thought that was great. I think that really taking the time to, there's so much talk in baseball now. Obviously, the analytics are a big thing, launch angle, all this kind of stuff. But to really just take a step back and think more about what the game means to us and what it has meant to us. And, obviously we heard, especially Jen, talking a lot about what it means with her and, the next generation. So honestly, just a great conversation. I'm glad that we were able to do this. We had to, maneuver some schedules and things like that to get it to work, but we were able to finally find a date. And luckily that date worked out with this opening week of baseball. Of course, I recommend that you listen to Theme Park Thursday with Dillo's Diz and the Hyperion Adventures podcast. Those are two of the top that are on my list on my podcatcher. And when you're done listening to those, be sure to leave a rating and review for them because they are awesome. And those ratings and reviews, as I've talked about before, help bump us up in those algorithms that make us easier to find for more people. And really, we're all trying to grow communities where, people can interact both with us and with each other and kind of spread their love for, in their cases, primarily Disney, but obviously, they're willing to come on and talk with people like me about all kinds of different things, in this case, baseball. So I'm rambling a little bit, but that's a way of saying that, yeah, we love growing community. And the community for the Maz's Musings podcast is the Muse in Place, which is on Facebook. And you can find it through our Facebook page, the Maz's Musings podcast, or on our website, mazasmusings.wordpress.com. Now, we also are on all other manner of social media. We're on X, Twitter, we are on Instagram, and we are on Threads at Maz's Musings Pod. We're also on TikTok at Maz's Musings Podcast. We have a YouTube page, which we would love it if you subscribe to. We have had some lively debate in the comments there, so feel free to join in the conversation there as well. We also have a Blue Sky. So there's all kinds of ways that you can connect with us, all kinds of ways to talk with us, to start a conversation, ask a question, suggest a topic, all kinds of things that we can do with this. And I'd love to hear from all of you. And of course, you can always email me at mazasmusings@gmail.com. And yeah, I'd love to hear from you. Now, of course, you can also hear from me once a week in your inbox by signing up for the newsletter. And you can find the link to do that right on our website, which again is mazasmusings.wordpress.com. And right next to that button is another button that you can use to help support us with some of the small costs that go into putting this podcast together. And that is by buying us a blue milk. Now, and if you don't want to buy us a blue milk, totally understand. But I would encourage you to go and leave a rating or review on your favorite podcatcher for the reasons that I mentioned before. Because we would love to have more people listening. We would love to have more people connecting. And we would love to have more of those conversations with people like you. And whether you are listening for the first time or buying us blue milk or anything in between, I hope you have a great weekend and a great week. And go Sox. Music for the Maz's Musings podcast is brought to you by Hi Dad Soup. Check them out at Mickey and Minutes on Instagram.